All right, what's going on? Thanks so much for checking out this case study video. My name is Logan Skees. I'm the co-founder of the Venture Map. Today, I feel so privileged and fortunate to be with a longtime client and a great friend, Mr. Matt Beck. Matt, thanks for coming on the line with me today.
Hey Logan, happy to do it. I'm excited.
We're on the tail end now of a year journey of working together on building out your brand's Venture Map.
Journey is right. Yeah. Yeah.
We've had a lot of fun. We've learned a lot. We've solved a number of problems, and I'm excited because we're looking at going through almost a site walk of all the major architectures that we built together in the last year and how it's led up to our project and where that's going.
Yeah, we've done so much. It's going to be quite the trip down memory lane. Some of it seems like years ago. It's been a long year, lots of work. So looking forward
Lifetimes.
to revisiting.
Me too. Before we kick off the sidewalk down memory lane, I think it would be helpful for any viewers to better understand, obviously, more about the venture map, which they'll learn in the tour, and they can find out more details on our website. But I think I would love for the viewers to get a little more insight into your business, Float8, and your leadership role and how that's unfolded and brought us together to this sort of work in the first place.
Yeah. So yeah, I own founder, chief experience officer of Float8. We offer flotation therapy to our community. We'll probably pass by the mission here, but we aim to provide a safe, clean, and serene space for our floaters to relax, recover, and reset so they can live happier, healthier, more productive lives. And that statement there was honed in through the work here with Logan. So that is our mission. Flotation therapy or sensory deprivation is a great wellness modality. It helps with physical recovery, helps with mental stress and anxiety, creativity, focus, relieves pain, speeds up recovery from workouts, induces a meditative state. It's a homeostasis environment for the body. So hormones come to balance, blood pressure normalizes. So just a great way to treat yourself. So it's really changed my life. I used to float somewhere else and they went out of business and or changed businesses, and I saw a need, and it's been an exciting adventure, and we're getting a great response here in South Florida. So, and expanding. We started with one location just over 4 years ago, and we opened our second location last October. So we're coming up almost on a year of the second location.
And the growth continues.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Very.
We'll leave it at that here, but yep, and growing.
And growing, indeed. Thank you for sharing that. Let's kick it off with the journey where you and I reconnected. We've been friends for many years, and we started talking at the pre-launch of the new unit in Fort Lauderdale. And you invited me down for a float. We had a great float, but afterwards, we started catching up after the whole COVID crisis. What have you been up to? And he said, well, we've been working on this business terrain model, this way to map out a business in a specific virtual space. We wanted to do a little more talking, so we dove in to a Zoom session, started collaborating, and we started on a legacy board. And Matt, when I first started showing you the earlier stage maps that we were working on my phone back then for the first time, what was your immediate reaction or the first thoughts that you had when you saw it?
Yeah, I remember, I don't know if it was an iPad or phone, and you started scrolling around the Miro and showing what you're working on. And initial reaction, yeah, like, well, being a business owner and, having a visionary mind, we'll say, there might be some other clinical terms that people use, but scattered, lots of ideas, very reactionary. Seeing the map was very intriguing to be able to, when you were showing me being able to kind of organize thoughts down in front of me, and it's something pretty quickly realizing it's something I didn't know that I needed, that I didn't know I needed, and it kind of presented itself. So I was definitely immediately intrigued and interested in exploring it more.
Right on. And exploring it more, we did. We we started saying like, how do we move forward here? And that we started off with what we now call the legacy architecture. We came in to a Zoom call kind of like this, and we started jamming out and saying, well, what sort of assets, what sort of collateral do we have now? Let's just get on top of all of this, spread out what's in Google Docs, just kind of like we would if we were in a conference room. Let's just kind of spread it all and see what is going on. So that's one of the first things I remember us doing and having fun looking at. But we also said, well, we've got this operational software that we're using to run the brick and mortar units, and there's complexities to team training and collateral being stored in there. So let's get a current state map of that as well. And that was fun. We spent a good amount of time getting on top of it. I'm curious, Matt, talk about. I would love to hear you share some of your first few steps coming into the board, what it was like for us working together during those early stages and mapping out the operational software and the assets and sort of spreading all of that out, seeing it from a bird's eye view for the first time in Miro.
Yeah, it was very freeing. So, between everything I had never run a float center before. So I've been gaining all of this knowledge over the first few years of running it, and a lot of it in my head, slowly trying to get it down into Google Docs and documents. And as much as I got down, not as organized as I'd like it to be, hard to see everything in one place. So just to go through, I kind of forgot all of the elements I had created throughout. So just the process of first sorting through our folders and pulling out all the documents. In that process, getting rid of a lot of stuff I had started and abandoned, and just cleaning everything up there was a great process. And then sorting through my mind and all of the, as we were getting it out and seeing, it just kind of snowballed and built by like, oh yeah, we have this and that. And then that would remind me of other stuff that I had, processes I have in my mind that I haven't had the time to put down yet. So what we're looking at here, the resources down below are a lot of the documents. And then at the top with the blue, orange, and red, those are a lot of kind of the structure of our processes. And then just being able to visualize it like this, it became clear. It made it easier to see what we were missing. So we've filled in quite a bit of this. You can see with the red sticky notes, those were all areas that needed to be addressed, things that I knew we had, but I did not have descriptions for. So it really, and when you're running a business and the phone keeps ringing and emails keep coming in, it's hard to stay focused on what you need to prioritize. And just the process of getting it down, everything became clear. It was exciting. What needed to be done within the business, I was able, to continue to prioritize better and focus on different aspects. So,
And it did snowball from there. After I think we got to a point where we were looking at this and he said, well, what do we do next? And what was the second step from there? We said, well, let's keep legacy architecture in play and let's move into some development of additional brand collateral. We started some of the red notes that was in that previous architecture was pointing at areas that we knew we had to build out. So we knew we kind of did a current state analysis to say, let's represent the majority of the collateral, the majority of the assets we do have in the business, and see if we can integrate that in a very visual way, identifying some areas that we know we want to reinforce, reiterate, or build from scratch. And that's where the original incubation framework came into play. And we had a lot of fun breaking this down for a couple of months.
yeah, I really, I'm invested in my business for the long term. For the long term, as an entrepreneur, in the beginning, it was like, all right, how am I paying rent this month? And that's not thinking much further beyond that. But as I started to pick my head up and look further down the road, opening a second location, growing the team, I had spent a lot of energy and time on the brand. But if I'm investing in building out a new location and training new staff, it's extremely important to me to make sure there's a foundation. I didn't want to leave any regrets or wish I had a better foundation as we grow, because I've seen other businesses that grow maybe too fast or without that foundation. And what started great in a small model, as it scaled, they weren't able to maintain what made them great on a bigger scale. So I really, was very motivated to get into this incubation portion, because it's really the foundation between the branding and the story and like the mission you heard me say, and just making sure. When we first started, it was like friends working for me, but now we're growing a team. I need to inspire people. The more of the community's reading it, and just making sure that everything's clear and really aligned with, what we were trying to do. And it was inspiring for me and inspiring for our team and inspiring for the community of floaters that we service.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that. What do we do in the incubation framework, Matt?
Ooh, many sprints. It was a sprint workout. So the process of the incubation was, I was more or less given an assignment each week. Yeah, zoom in over here on the left. There was, Logan and his team and Jack would provide a video kind of describing each. They had a playbook for each element of the brand. And they provided a video where they walked through and kind of described where, what they were thinking and looking for each one. And I would go through prior to our meeting and add at a very low fidelity sticky note level, go in and put all of my thoughts, download all of my thoughts on each topic into each, each playbook that we worked on. And it was weekly. And it was, what we do 12 weeks. I think I ended up running a little long. I think as we got a little bit deeper into the story and all, it took a little bit longer, but it was what was queued up as a 12-week program.
The party couldn't stop. They couldn't be contained to 12 weeks.
Yeah. It got a life of its own. We had a hard time wrangling it in. But yeah, so I would go through and, right here, we're looking at colors and what our brand colors are. So real, I knew we have navy blue, light blue, orange, some white, some gray, some black, but really honing in on everything. And so I brought in a lot of example. I would scour the internet and bring in examples of color combinations I liked. And Logan did a great job with his design eye of bringing in, I don't know what you would call these, Logan, but these different comparable and choosing this or that, and really honing in on exactly our colors. And now we have color codes, not just navy blue and we pick out a random dark blue, but now we actually have codes of each color that we use. So that's a good example.
That was a lot of fun. And each of these sprints, these playbooks, have components to them, like the colors we just looked at, and they also output into a deliverable, something that we would see more traditionally in terms of formatting, like a PDF output. So we would have the final working project file collect all the pieces of that individual playbook and stage it as a brand deliverable, as IP, and each of these lines effectively generates or outputs a meaningful output for the business, a meaningful deliverable. And
yeah, I'll just say the process, it was a great. Logan and Jack, them, like challenging me on this, or a good conversation. As an entrepreneur, you can be lonely sometimes. You're making decisions, you don't know which orange, and being able to have somebody to talk it through with, and even if you have partners and maybe you're not lonely, an outside third party that's not emotionally tied to things, just kind of guide the conversation and lead along the way. There is definitely, I tend to stop and leave things unfinished because I have a hard time making that final decision. But just going through this process and really pushing us, setting the accountability of, at the end of this week, we're going to have that finished, that product, that deliverable, was really good for me, because otherwise I would leave everything, partially finished. But and these are all iterations, so we will revisit in the future as we've always talked about. But just to get to that final deliverable was a great exercise for me of just getting things done, focusing, and that exercise. And they were great thought sparring partners for me, and challenging where my holdups were, and asking good questions and helping me make decisions, and moving things along. So it was a really great, efficient process of getting my thoughts into a deliverable that's presentable to new employees or potential investors, or maybe future franchisees, or whatever direction we may go in. It's invaluable content to have as that foundation I was referring to earlier for the business.
It's a real privilege working with you, Matt. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Wow, it really is an honor. We Some of the other types of outputs we had in this process beyond brand identity, visual identity, was something we focused on a lot, which is the guiding principles, the core values and the culture of the company. We also looked at our core narrative, the customer story, business modeling, how to transition our business model strategy and our brand story into website wireframes and even hypothesis storyboards, so we could capture our entrepreneurial assumptions and to validate them in the market. But I want to take, maybe we could, in a follow on series, we can explore some of the additional deliverables we captured in this period of our journey together. But I want us to fast forward now, Matt, to this piece in time where we basically were producing our review deck, saying, man, 3 months down, 4 months down, what do we do? We did the legacy board and we did this incubation framework. We always knew that the business was so much bigger than just the sprints, the playbooks that were represented in this framework. We always knew that it was one piece of a much larger whole, and that Float8 and any business is very expansive. And I think our ambition was that it was possible to map out all of it, if not the majority of it, in one place. I'm curious. I want to hear your thoughts where you were at this stage once we had the whole incubation framework done and we were showing you those earlier stage prototypes of the Venture Map 1.0 and how that ambition to move forward left you feeling at those days.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. It was a mental wrestling match for 3 months plus. And then I'm like, we're done. That's amazing. We did it. And then you unfold the venture map, and I realized that all of that work fits into one or two, or maybe, a couple of the squares of this entire venture map. And the venture map in general is an amazing concept to me as an entrepreneur, and with the visionary mind, and having a hard time seeing the full picture at once, but at the same time a bit intimidating when seeing, like, all right, all that work filled this little square. Then we have a lot more work. But the potential clarity that it was going to provide was like, all right, let's keep going. There was no questions to be asked, like, okay, what's next? Take a deep breath.
And
I grew up a soccer player. Fitness is paramount. You need to be able to catch your breath on the move. There's no timeouts. You got to keep moving. So I worked on catching my breath and was ready for the next play. But
we basically ran directly into the next play. You got a few days to catch your breath, maybe a week or two, and then we went right back into the big part of our quest, which has been this area we've dedicated the majority of our developmental focus and for many months now. You've been an excellent partner in this effort, and collaborator in this effort, and have brought a enthusiasm and a visionary spirit that's really brought a life to this project that's made it meaningful in so many ways. I've had a lot of fun. The incubation project was a thought sparring. It was mental wrestling, and we were able to output, a lot of really cool deliverables that fed directly into this framework. Maybe in one of our next discussions, we can look at some of the earlier venture map stuff, but I'll save anyone watching this and the time and say we did a number of of iterations. Matt has been so gracious in allowing us to keep trying to push the limits on how this is visualized. We basically took it into what is now this retired board, and that's a giant map. And we started bringing in individual pieces from the previous work and saying, how can we get the whole customer experience visualized, but more than that, all of our business collateral relative to the customer experience. And we did a whole series of venture map sprints where we would just come in here and everything from our vision and our team stuff to market analysis, and we would just put a timer on and it'd go hard, basically visualizing. And there was that period of time where we were venture map sprinting on a very regular basis. That was a little bit of a pace change from the very structured, very precise, predefined form of the incubation framework. That was kind of a 180 in terms of operational output for us.
Yeah, less framework to operate within. It was a little bit more free flowing,
A little more free flowing. We
but you guys did a great job of leading it and keeping it organized.
over time we appreciate that. We kept on iterating, we kept on developing, and now we find ourselves in our current state, which is still very much a beautiful work in progress, something we're very excited about, very proud of. And this is the current venture map, Float8. It has the full visualization of customer experience and all of the unique offers that the business has, how all the offers feed into one another, basically the value ladder. And we're using this core framework, very meaningful, empathetic stance on our customer's journey as we position them as the hero, but also key touch points for customer retention marketing efforts, and how we can focus not only our efforts on customer acquisition, but floater engagement and floater retention to extend that customer life cycle long term and continue bringing that value, as well as scaling it through advocacy and cross channel sales or upsells. So we've had a lot of fun building out that customer experience framework together to complement all of the deliverable structures that we worked on to sort of provide that foundation in the earlier points of the year. We are on the tail end now of a pretty hefty sprint on the customer experience mapping front, Matt. We also complemented that with process documentation and refinement. Something that was important to us is to say not only what key actions are customers taking at each step of their journey through the business, from the awareness stage all the way through to advocacy, but is that impacting our team? How is the operational staff interfacing with these customers and supporting the journey, and what sort of backstage processes are we leveraging to support that as well? And what we've recognized is there was a lot of tribal knowledge in the business where there was some excellent processes being done in a very implicit and organic way. And as we were onboarding new team members and seeking to streamline best practices across the organization, we hosted a series of workshops to extract those tribal processes, document them, and refine them into our own brand playbooks. That was a lot of fun. We had solo boards actually dedicated for all of our core operational leadership, and we worked on reinforcing the corporate culture and the things that were very important to the group, but also opportunities to empower the team with their own perspectives on the company and how the ideas they had to improve upon what was being done. So taking more of that entrepreneurial stance and making material contributions to the development of the business. And I'll tie it in here and hand over and open it the floor up for some remarks, we had solo boards like this produced where individual teammates were guided through the process step by step on how to come in to a Miro board, interface their mind, given instructions on how to make toast, as we like to say, describe the process through post-it notes in their own words. From there, we kicked off a series of workshops that collaboratively refined all of the individual process drafts and went through this iteration process of wireframing them out, creating these playbooks, and then ultimately producing media, multimedia around that, videos, photos to support the um, overall playbook that would be then used in presentations and printed into the on-site manuals for training and onboarding purposes. And
Yeah, that was a great exercise for us and a work in progress. But yeah, being able to not just leverage the current employees who are doing more of the work than I was at that point, but also just getting the buy-in from them and the asynchronous work that you guys led and have helped establish within our business, which is now a core function that is not going anywhere. But them being able to, at their pace, contribute, download their steps of the process, and then having them all do that individually, then bring them together, and then go through the process of pulling out all of the different steps from each of their processes to a point where they all agree at the end that this is the best way to do each of these processes. And everybody's given high fives and there's total buy-in. And as far as culture within the business, more or less eliminated arguments over how things were getting done in the shop and between, because we work pretty much one person in the shop at a time. So different people were doing things different ways. And this was just a process to really, and with that, there was, a little bit of a push and pull between employees. And this process just kind of led us all to a point where we agreed that this was the way to do things. And it really, again, helped eliminate all of that tension between the staff and kind of bring everybody together and feel more of a team, a better cultural fit. So, and as a new company, building culture is important to me. And this was a, invaluable process and step in that direction. And now as we're continuing to grow, we're training better. There's less ambiguous, things happening when the different employees are helping with the training. We're all working off the manual instead of just showing. It was confusing to new employees when all of the current employees were showing them different ways to do the same thing. And now we've eliminated that, and it's, much more streamlined and training better and less, less tension. So, and, expertly led by the Venture Map team here. And because I get in the way, like I'm opinionated, I have done it more than any of them, although I don't do it quite as much anymore. So, for in my mind, an important step of that process was I was active in the early development, but when they actually got together and pulled all together, I had Logan lead that, and I didn't even participate because I didn't want to influence their conversation, and it was, expertly led. And of course, once it was done, I came through and, polished it off with my thoughts. But, it was, I think they felt more free to speak openly without me there and, have the conversation and keep things moving. And Logan's a great leader, and he led that. And it was a very productive process.
appreciate that. It was a lot of fun. I think that was an adventure in and of itself. The workshops. Thank you for
Man, I
sharing.
got to kick back with my feet up and do absolutely nothing while you guys did all the work. Just kidding. There's
You get
plenty
to
of
put,
others. As an entrepreneur, there's always plenty of other stuff to do.
and I seem to remember some late nights and early mornings of building out the shoot list and being on site working on producing the content for this. You showed up and you continue to show up. The way that you invest in your business is inspiring. Your attention to detail and your commitment to excellence is something that I believe is as a standard that other entrepreneurs should leverage as a goal for their careers. Just continue to be inspired by our work together, and I'm grateful for the collaborative spirit and the visionary capabilities that you bring to this work. It's very meaningful, Matt. Really is, and
That
it's
means a lot. Appreciate you sharing that.
absolutely, man. It's funny to review a year's worth of work in 20 minutes or so. I know we could always do deeper dives into any number of these segments and talk about the future, but I guess this is probably a good place for us to wrap it in here with any final remark. Just really couldn't be more proud of the work we've done, and that where it's going is also equally as exciting, if not even more so.
Yeah, definitely plenty of more work to do, but as far as providing clarity of vision for me, the venture map has been a great asset and excellent work and time and energy and financial investment well spent of all of that, and just being able to see the business from the timeline and from top to bottom of foundation to the customer experience, is really taken me to a whole nother level of thought for as an entrepreneur and growing the business. And I'm so much more clarity, and you know, I don't know, it's been very freeing. And I talked to a lot of my other fellow entrepreneurs, and they're super intrigued, so I'm excited to share this video with them and kind of show them, like you showed me, I'm like pulling out my phone and trying to show them. It's just tough to
Nice.
see, and with all the work done in a quick 3-minute conversation. But yeah, and then still plenty of work to do. Looking forward to continuing to grow, and business is growing, so more is changing, and our customer journey is just getting longer and longer because we have customers longer and longer. So it's all just evolving, and it's fun to track here. And this is an excellent platform to keep it all clean and visually present, to not only for me to look at, but to also share with the team and other colleagues. So I very much value the work we've done.
It means the world. Thank you for sharing that, Matt. I enjoyed connecting with you today.
Yeah, as always, Logan, my pleasure.
You got it.
I'm looking forward to the next time.
Same here. I think this is the first of a series.
Yeah, yeah, I could definitely see that. Looking forward to it.
Me too, man.
In the meantime, we keep grinding.
You got it. I'll sign us off. If Thanks so much for checking out the video walkthrough with Matt and I today. We really enjoyed demonstrating some of the great work that's been done behind the scenes in stealth mode as we've developed the venture map and supporting architectures for Matt's incredible business, Float8. If you're in the South Florida region, I couldn't recommend checking that his Deerfield or Fort Lauderdale locations out enough. They're just absolutely game changing in terms of setting a new standard of excellence for the industry, for the float industry, that is. A tremendous entrepreneur with a great vision and a dedication to building a strong basis of process, systems, and culture to support the longevity of his business. So, if you have any additional questions for Matt, you can reach him through the Float8 flotation website, and I'll drop that in that link below. And if you'd like to learn more about the Venture Map, go ahead and check out the website. There's going to be some surrounding buttons where you can learn more about how we can help empower the clarification of your vision so you can see your business come to life in a similar way to Mr. Beck here. And that's all the time we've got for now. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the other side.
So thank you.